Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. So there it is, Donald Trump officially made his decision. Now initially, I was expecting Trump to throw a complete curveball, but in this case a curveball wasn't thrown. Trump made the VP pick that a lot of people were expecting. JD Vance is the pick and he was at the top of a lot of lists online. Now look, I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments section expressing frustration with JD Vance. He's a never-Trumper, he's a deep state operative, he's not the right pick for VP. And look, you're absolutely entitled to that opinion, and to be honest, I understand the skepticism, considering all the Trump staffing issues over the years. If JD Vance wasn't your preferred pick, I understand. Just please try not to take it against me. Let's try to have an open mind here, let's try to analyze this from a neutral perspective. JD Vance is the pick, I think we should give him the benefit of the doubt as well as Trump. Let's have a conversation about the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, and the ugly, what we know and what we don't know. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so you guys know the pick is in, JD Vance is the guy. And right off the bat, let's start with the bad. Here's the clip that everybody's posting to discredit JD Vance.
JD Vance, in his own words.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. As somebody who doesn't like Trump, I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. I didn't vote for Trump because I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious, him being really outrageous and offensive.
On Twitter, Vance called Trump, quote, reprehensible, an idiot, and Vance loves Mitt Romney.
I'm a never Trump guy.
That's the real JD Vance.
You know, not exactly flattering stuff, certainly concerning, but at the same time, you know, what immediately comes to mind is that people evolve. There's a lot of people who back in 2016, 2017 were vehemently anti-Trump. You know, I always mention this, and I think it's an important piece of context. Donald Trump was deeply unpopular when he first got elected back in 2016. And I mean deeply, deeply unpopular. Donald Trump started with the lowest presidential approval in modern American history. Take a look at this chart right over here. We have President Trump job approval. If you take a look at his first roughly 18 months, you'll notice his numbers are in the gutter. Just like Joe Biden, he was dipping in the 30s. But what happened throughout Trump's first term is what was truly remarkable. Slowly but surely, Trump edged up and up and up and up. Of course, he had that momentary spike down after January 6th, which he's completely rebounded from, but throughout the majority of his first term, his approval rating went up, meaning there was a lot of people in the early days who were skeptical of him. A lot of people, frankly, hated him. But see, Trump slowly started to work his way into people's hearts. There are so many people who are on the other side of the political aisle who have now crossed over. There's a lot of people who are part of the neocon clique who saw the light and joined the grassroots Trump movement. To completely dismiss JD Vance because he said a couple things back in the 2016-2017 era, personally I think is unfair. And I also find it a little confusing that all of these people that I'm seeing on Twitter that are attacking JD Vance as the worst pick possible, well, a lot of them are promoting Vivek Ramaswamy as the man who should have been the alternative pick. And that I find a little confusing. Not because I don't support Vivek, quite the opposite in fact. Vivek would have been my number one choice for VP. I think he should have been the VP, frankly. But the idea that Vivek Ramaswamy is something that JD Vance isn't, or that JD Vance represents something sinister and Vivek doesn't, it just doesn't make sense to me. A lot of people aren't aware of this, but Vivek and JD Vance are actually great friends. I believe they went to law school together, if I'm not mistaken. They were classmates. It's a little bit perplexing to me because you have these people who are staunch Vivek supporters who hate JD Vance, but Vivek is JD Vance's best friend and totally in support of him.
JD was born in humble circumstances. He's lived the American dream as well. His wife Usha is somebody who's a friend of our family as well. She was also a law school classmate. I think she could be a big attribute in this campaign in reaching non-traditional voters. And even further for JD himself, he is somebody who has a unique vantage point for bringing in new voters. Here's what it is. He wasn't somebody who was a Donald Trump evangelist back in 2016. So I think that's actually
it's quite the opposite.
Yeah, well, I acknowledge that. But what I would say is he can actually reach a lot of other people who also weren't in the Donald Trump camp in 2016. And in a very personal and authentic way, he can say, look, here's why I moved. And here's why I want you to come with us as well. So I think that's...
And not to mention, just to show how good of friends they are, and look, I might be wrong in the connection, but JD Vance is actually married to an Indian woman. Her name is Usha. JD Vance has biracial kids. His children are of half European descent and half Indian descent. And one of JD Vance's sons is actually named Vivek Vance. Literally, check it up on Google. So look, the point that I'm making is that you could be skeptical of literally anybody. You could be skeptical of Vivek Ramaswamy, his supposed ties to George Soros' foundation, the WEF, stuff. Of course, a lot of that stuff has been debunked, but the point is you'll find something on anyone. Nobody has a perfect track record, and you'll find suspicious connections pretty much everywhere you look in the world of politics. So look, I'm not going to sit here and say, JD Vance has no skeletons in his closet, JD Vance is the perfect guy. I'm also not going to sit here and say that we should totally demonize him. What I am saying is, he's the pick, so let's be skeptic where it's necessary, but let's also not be irrational, hold power to account, and hope for the best. So anyways, that's the negative. Now let's do the positive. Why did Donald Trump pick JD Vance? Well, that's pretty much a no-brainer. I've seen a lot of people saying, why would he pick JD Vance? That's a horrible pick electorally. And everybody points the finger at JD Vance's last election, where he underperformed in his election compared to his Republican predecessor. You can see the numbers right over here, but I'm not so sure we could look at these numbers in isolation and draw that point. You know, there's a lot of fluctuation. There's a lot of different factors. It depends on the candidate that the Democrats promoted, how much money they're putting into these campaigns, and also JD Vance himself, while he does have name recognition, he is a famous best-selling author and extremely successful guy. Heading into this election, he was a political unknown. He didn't have political experience. I don't view him as being a bad pick electorally. Personally, I view him as a great pick electorally. In Donald Trump's Truth Social post, he said this: "After lengthy deliberation and thought, and considering the tremendous talents of many others, I have decided that the best person suited to assume the position of Vice President of the United States is Senator J.D. Vance of the great state of Ohio. J.D. honorably served our country in the Marine Corps, graduated from Ohio State University in 2 years summa cum laude, and is a Yale Law School graduate, where he was the editor of the Yale Law Journal and president of the Yale Law Veterans Association. J.D.'s book, Hillbilly Elegy, became a major bestseller and movie as it championed the hard-working men and women of our country. J.D. has had a very successful business career in technology, finance, and now, during the campaign, he will be strongly focused on the people that he fought so brilliant for, the American workers and farmers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond." And so obviously you get exactly where I'm going. The political calculus here is quite simple. You know, like I said, people are saying he's a bad pick electorally, but really, he might be the best pick electorally. He's the guy that represents the white working class. And of course, where's Trump's path to victory? Well, it lies right through the Rust Belt. The J.D. Vance pick is obviously a pick to appeal to white working class voters, and of course it helps that he's qualified for the job as well. You know, a lot of people are saying a lot of things about J.D. Vance, but one thing you can't say is that he's stupid. Certainly he isn't. He's a very intelligent man with high verbal IQ, and over the years he's become one of the most staunch, most vocal, and most effective defenders of Donald Trump in the media.
I know Donald Trump. He cares about this country. He wants to run for president to make it better, not to install himself as some sort of dictator. It's just ridiculous, Brendan.
Yeah, look, I mean, all of us say stupid things, and I happen to say stupid things very publicly. I've been very public about the fact that I voted for the president in 2020, that I was wrong about the president back in 2015, 2016, and that he's been the greatest president of my lifetime for the very simple reason. There are many, but one very important reason is that he revealed the corruption in Washington, D.C. I mean,
Aside from your views or anyone else's views about Donald Trump, this is a real threat to Americans' trust in the legal system. If you look at polling, even a lot of folks who are going to vote for Joe Biden think that the lawfare against Donald Trump is bogus. You cannot say that this trial was anything more than politics masquerading as justice. And yes, I will help Donald Trump. I will help Donald Trump however I think that I can, Wolf, because if we allow this to happen, it's so much bigger and so much more troubling than Donald Trump. If we allow this standard that you can throw your political opponents in jail because they're doing better than you in an election, it will be the end of this country.
He's a fantastic debater, and it's likely that Kamala Harris doesn't stand a shot against him. I mean, you got Kamala.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Now going against this guy.
When the media and people like Tim Ryan accuse me of engaging in the great replacement theory, I'll tell you exactly what happens, Tim. What happens is that my own children, my biracial children, get attacked by scumbags online and in person because you are so desperate for political power that you'll accuse me, the father of 3 beautiful biracial babies, of engaging in racism. We are sick of it.
The Secretary of Transportation has been the recipient of hundreds of billions of dollars of infrastructure funding, and yet it looks in a lot of ways like our infrastructure is degrading or certainly not getting better. The second thing is, yesterday, Pete Buttigieg had the opportunity to address this problem. He instead talked about the excessive amount of, this is not a joke,
too many white men in the construction industry. That is not a serious concern for this country right now. What's going on in East Palestine is. The Secretary of Transportation needs to focus on real problems, not fake problems. And until he does, people are going to wonder whether he's doing his job.
Here's the thing, you might be skeptical of JD Vance, but honestly, don't be shocked if he ends up being a pleasant surprise. JD also has an extensive conservative track record. His Senate voting score this session is at 93% compared to the average Senate Republican, which sits at 61%. And so look, if you really think about it, the pick actually makes sense. He's a young, competent guy. If he's genuine and he performs well, he could possibly pick up the torch. The strategic play here obviously makes sense. Basically, where I stand on the issue is not the worst pick. I don't think it's a disaster like some people are suggesting. JD's obviously got a lot to prove. He's got a lot of doubters to prove wrong. I'll give him that blind support. Let's see exactly what happens. Let's see what JD brings to the table and simply give the guy a fair shot. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.